What is a job you would be terrible at?
Start the list. I play make-believe for a living.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of A-Listers. My guest today is an actor most known as Matt Saracen from Friday Night Lights, and most recently as Riley Flynn on the new series Midnight Mass. Welcome to the show, Zach Gilford.
Well, thank you for having me.
So I do have a small two-part question to start with. Do you get tired of talking about Friday Night Lights? And I hope the answer is no.
No, I don't. It's it's awesome, and luckily people loved it. And now with the way TV works, I mean, I just watched The Sopranos a year ago, so like I'll talk people's ear off about The Sopranos, and they're like, "Oh, I'll be like, did you see this show?" I'm like, yeah, 15 years ago. So
like you're behind.
I get it, and yeah, and everybody likes compliments, so no, I don't mind it at all. I hope it doesn't. I can do other things that people will talk about, and that was one really fun thing about Midnight Mass, because it's such a different type of story, and I could tell from the beginning. I'd seen Haunting at Hill House. I thought Mike was an amazing filmmaker and storyteller, and so when I got the opportunity to do this and then to read the scripts, I was just so excited and felt like, oh, this will be another one of the shows that people will really gravitate to.
People have their comfort foods. Well, Friday Night Lights was always a comfort show to me. Like, there's so many elements on that show you guys nailed. And right off the bat, how did that casting process work? And how did it feel when you got the lead or one of the leads in Friday Night Lights?
I mean, the casting process was long. I think I went in and read 6 or 7 times. Wow. And originally I read for Riggins, and then I got a call back and I go in and I'm like ready to go. And Linda Lowy, the casting director, was like, "Okay, so you're reading for Matt, right?" I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "No, Riggins." She was like, "Oh, I wanted to see you for Matt." I was like, "Okay, well, just give me the sides. I'll figure it out. Just give me like 2 minutes to go outside, or I'll just do it cold." And she's like, "No, it's fine. I know you'll be good. I'll bring you back for the producers next week," or something like that. So long ago now, but so then I came in, and it was a long process. And then it was kind of weird to do this thing in TV a lot of times where you test. They kind of narrowed it down between 2 and 3 people, and you go and go in front of a huge group of executives and stuff and do your audition. But so they did the test for all the main kids on the same day. So I remember me, Minka, Adrian, Scott, Amy, Jesse, we're all just sitting in a room at this conference table, and the other people that we're testing against. So it was kind of awkward, but luckily, long story short, it worked out.
Because you're sitting next to your competition and people you could potentially be working with at the same time.
So, yeah, and you have no idea who's this is going to be. I remember I actually walked out with Scott, and I gave him a ride to his hotel. That's how much we clicked. And then I forgot about this till right now. We were like, "I hope you get it. I hope you get it." And ultimately we did. It's kind of funny. They actually wanted the other guy for my part, but he was already booked on some Disney TV movie or something, and they couldn't work out the dates. And they tried for so long, they needed to start shooting the show. So they kind of I guess we just got to take Zach.
Darn, we had to take Zach. I mean, you nailed the role, so it worked out great.
I think it worked out. It just was I always have a chip on my shoulder with a lot of things, because I know on that I was the second choice. A lot of jobs I've been proud of, I was the second choice. So it keeps me humble.
Is there any deleted scenes or moments from Friday Night Lights you wish aired, or maybe a favorite moment on set that you can think of from?
I mean, I haven't seen the show since it aired, so
okay, fair enough.
That didn't make it in.
Well, maybe a favorite moment on set with somebody.
I'd say it's a tie between every scene with Jesse and every scene with Luann, my grandmother. They were just so amazing and so funny. And I mean, Plemons is still a close friend of mine. Awesome. And I just had the hardest time keeping a straight face with him, because some of the stuff he did, and it's so it's not like he's cracking jokes, but that character Landry is just so funny. And you so buy him as it that you're like, how are you coming up with this stuff? Who would say this? But it just made it a lot of fun. And I actually learned a lot from him about comedy just through watching him and just kind of what I think is funny is when it's not so much a joke, but when it's like earnest.
Right. Facial
And
expressions or
yeah, and just like not trying to make a joke, but just saying something that is so out there and weird. But if you say it with conviction, it's pretty.
Right.
I find it to be pretty hilarious. Yeah, that
Yeah.
show we had the freedom to kind of like improvise a lot, and especially even at the beginning because Pete Berg, he's an actor originally, and he kind of directed the scenes improvising as well. So he'd be watching from the monitors and he'd have an idea that would make the scene better. He'd be like, say this, do that, take a bite out of your cheeseburger now. And you're like, what? He's like, just do it. You're like, but he kind of found them while the scene was going on. And once you learn to kind of work that way, you so much more happened rather than like doing the scene as written. And then like the director coming in and be like, okay, let's try this and let's do this. I had this idea. It's kind of like just happening in the moment, and it makes it very authentic.
Yeah. What do you think happened to Matt after Friday Night Lights ended?
I have no idea, to be honest.
No idea.
I mean, I remember at the end, and this is kind of the beauty of the show too, is most of the characters went places. They left. And it was always sad to see characters go. Like, it started with Street and Smash. And then I left eventually, but even in that, once I graduated, it's like the only thing tying me to any of it was my relationship with Amy and, the audience attachment to that character. However, all my stuff, I'm like, nobody cares about seeing me in art school. Like it's not doing anything for anyone.
Right.
So it kind of made sense for him to go off and do his own. So I don't know. I mean, I think, oh yeah, we got married, right? Didn't we get married?
Yeah, they heavily implied it. You proposed. She said yes.
That's right. Yeah, I've actually never seen the last season.
Really?
Yeah, just because it came out while I was dating my now wife, and she had never seen the show, and I wasn't gonna make her start watching season 5, and I also felt weird going to like watch myself by myself. So I just never really
I never thought about that. Right.
Yeah, I just never found the time to watch it. I'm like, well, I forgot now, but I know what happened. I read the script.
Yeah.
I was there. I shot it. I know what the show looks like. I know the tone. But I will.
If it was ever pitched to do like a mini series or a TV special of like, I don't know, a Dylan reunion, is that something you'd be interested in, or like, nope, it's over?
No, I mean, sure, whatever. We actually a few years ago, me, Minka, Amy, and Taylor did like a Spartan race together.
That's awesome.
And it was like a publicity thing, but it was really fun. And it kind of was like, the 4 of us after the race, we went and had dinner and then went out and had drinks, and like my wife was there and Amy's boyfriend and whatever. And it was like, I think it was 10 years after the show had premiered. But it was so fun to be back together and hang out. Right. And it was kind of like no time had really passed. So, and everyone still gets along great. We all pretty much keep in touch. And then some of us, it's just like, you hear something good about someone, you send them a text and say, congrats. Other people, you see more regularly or talk to more regularly.
Right.
But I think if it made sense in the sense of, everyone's luckily pretty successful and working. And, I've been in Vancouver for the past year. So it's just kind of the logistics of getting together just to like get together. It's kind of tricky, but I think it has a special place in everyone's heart. And as long as it's nothing cheesy, I think we'd all be open to it. It's just pretty hard to make happen.
Out of all the films and TV shows you've been a part of, what is the coolest prop t-shirt item that you've gotten to keep and take home with you?
I usually steal most of my clothes because I'm cheap and I don't like to buy clothes, and I don't have any style.
Free is for me. So, that's what I always say.
Yeah. So I usually just take it. Sometimes I'm not supposed to, and I pretend I didn't, but then I did. So I have this pair of Nikes that I got from this LA's Finest, which we did 2 seasons of. And they look like just like, a cool pair of like Nike waffle sneakers. I think they're like $500 shoes. I was like, and it's just because it has some designer name on it, like some designer edition. So I was like, well, now I got these cool shoes. I would never, ever buy them, but they look pretty cool.
That's great. So now I know anytime I see an interview or anything with you, you got wardrobe from a different show or movie. That's what you're rocking.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
Yeah, no joke. Or it's clothes that like someone let me borrow and I have to give them back.
Now, what I've always enjoyed about your acting, whether it's Friday Night Lights, Purge, Midnight Mass, is I've always felt very relatable to the things you do, whether it's your facial expressions, body movements, the little things that you do. Is that pulled from somewhere specific for you, or is it just that's natural me on the camera?
I think it's probably a little both. I mean, I joked in Mass a lot of times that I was doing my Meet Joe Black imitation of Brad Pitt in that movie because he's just so like still and listens, and everything's kind of internal. And I loved that movie. I loved him in it. But I do remember when I was, oh man, I was so young. I think I was like 19 or something, and I was an understudy for some little play in Chicago, and I got the part, so I had to go learn it because like the original understudy dropped out or something. Anyway, so I'm learning the part, and I'm like standing there and listening, and I remember the director's like, "Stop doing this, like stop, like stop making facial expressions. You're clearly making expressions of what you think will portray what this person's feeling," and it kind of like resonated with me to just really listen and think about what people are saying when you're in a scene with them and not try to show people what I feel about it, but just kind of. Now, the one thing I always say is like, if I ever get to direct, which I really would love to, I feel like I would just constantly be saying, just stop acting, like stop acting, just be there. And, and on Midnight Mass, I feel like Kate and I had a lot to do, but I feel like everyone else like really had to create these characters. Like, I know Samantha Sloyan very well now. She is not Bev Keane by any stretch of the imagination, and it's all like a character that she made up. And it's just like, wow, that's amazing. And for it to not come across as acting, like blew my mind. And I thought, Kristen Lehman, who played my mother, did that as well. Like I loved in the first episode when you see her on the phone and like she's got the phone cord wrapped around her and she doesn't make a meal of it or like hang a lantern on it. It's just something that's happening and like I buy it. And I remember I remember seeing that when I watched Mass a couple of weeks ago, and then I watched something else, I can't remember what, and someone did the same thing. And it just like felt a little false to me in the other thing.
Compared to it. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, I know lately we're seeing a little more of you on this, which I'm all for, but you're not really a big social media guy. Is it about disconnecting, or are you just really not interested in doing social media in general?
I don't have a huge interest. I mean, I understand like what it can do for your career in certain ways. It's good to promote things. I worked with, two of the queens of social media, and Gabrielle Union and Jessica Alba. And Jessica was telling me, she's like, why don't you do this? Like, if you ever want to direct, if you make a movie, if you make some small indie, like this is going to help you get financing for it. It's going to help you get distribution for it. And so I totally get the tool. I think so there, it's a little like, I want to be more involved. And whenever I do get on, it's kind of, everybody likes a compliment, and I like to interact with people and be genuine about it. I have 2 kids, I can't. And my wife and I do have a rule of we don't post any pictures of our kids online. Like we even tell our parents not to put them on Facebook, just because I want them to like have their childhood, and when they decide what to post, they'll decide. I love that. And they're my life. So it's like, I can talk about my kids on social media. It's fine. But it's like, a lot of times I feel like I don't really have anything anyone's going to be interested in. So when I have a project come along, it's like, oh, I can talk about that. Cool. Like, I can't imagine you care about the mundane, like leftover pizza I gave my daughter for breakfast this morning.
Someone will.
I thought it was appropriate since it had vegetables on it.
Hey, get the vegetables. And social media is not for everyone. I do this stuff. My wife, she's a hermit. No social media almost at all. She has one, but it just kind of sits there. So I totally get it. So now let's talk a little bit about some Midnight Mass. You play Riley Flynn. What drew you to this character? I
mean, I kind of mentioned this earlier. I was at work and I got like an email with an appointment to audition for something. And you read, okay, it's called Untitled something, like it has a fake name. And then you know, it says it's created by Mike Flanagan, who did The Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah.
And, you know, Kate Siegel's already attached. And it was like, oh man, like I loved Haunting. Like this is this guy's like next thing. And so then I just had like 2 scenes that, you know, all I got was 2 scenes, and those were my audition. And they were just so, I thought they were so wonderfully written. And like in an audition scene to have stuff that you actually got to do, it's weirdly rare. So often you have an audition, you're like, what, why do they want to see me do this scene? And so I just worked on it really hard, went in, then had to do a chemistry read with Kate, and I didn't get to read the scripts till after I had the part. And when I got to read the scripts, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I won this part. Like these scripts are amazing. So yeah, and then we shot it, and it was just one of those special experiences where everyone got along well. You really respected the work everyone was doing. It was good material. And I think we all hope to have at least one of those in our career. I'm fortunate to now have 2, because I feel that way about Friday Night Lights as well.
Yeah. A little bit of a spoiler alert, but I will put it on the screen. So if you have not seen Midnight Mass, click away, save it for later. Your character makes the ultimate sacrifice that kind of sparks the course of the end of the series. What did you think when you finally read that and saw what happens to your character?
Well, I knew it was going to happen in some way. Like, so I wasn't shocked. But the way it happens, I was blown away, and no pun intended.
That's my favorite episode in the whole series, by the way. That episode, and I remember after watching that episode, I just went and like she was in the other room, and I was like mind blown. It's such a good episode.
I mean, and like the way and it's on the page too, the way it ends with like Kate screams, and to have that carry over the credits is gut wrenching. And I remember on the page reading it and being like, wow, that is heavy. And then watching it was like, holy shit. What
would your dream acting role be? Like if someone told you you can play any character, play in any universe that's out there, what?
I'd do anything. They're all different. And that's a really hard question to answer. It's like, of course I'd love to play a superhero, but I'd also love to do something that's like really, really heavy acting, challenging. I'd love to like see if I'm actually funny and could do that. Like, and that's part of the thing about acting is, each job's a different job. And you're always trying to push yourself to do something different. So it's kind of the impossible question to ask or to answer. Sorry.
Fair. So this last part I have for you are some rapid fire questions. What's your go-to favorite movie?
Braveheart.
Most fun you've had on any set you've been a part of?
In general, Friday Night Lights, because we had so much freedom just to like improvise. And like I said, like Luann and Jesse are just hysterical. And Taylor Kitsch is ridiculously funny. I mean, him and I, when we'd have scenes together, like this was like we couldn't look at each other. I don't even know why.
It's one of those moments where you just bust out laughing.
But it was like always. It just was
really?
Just felt so ridiculous because it was like, you put Saracen and Riggins together, and it's just such an odd couple. So like the scene where him and I are hunting, I think it's like season 4. Like I was dying laughing.
Favorite superhero?
I think just because of like what he did with it, it's Iron Man, and Robert Downey Jr. was just so amazing. As far as powers and stuff, like, I mean, I love all the movies. I watch them. I'm not like a big comic person.
Me either.
So for me, it's more, I mean, I've seen all the movies and I enjoy them thoroughly. I think it's just, for me, my favorites come down to more, the characters that are portrayed in the films.
What is one food you could not live without?
French fries?
What's the weirdest thing you've been recognized for?
Law and Order, SVU. Like,
really?
And it's like airport security, TSA. Always is like, you're the guy who, and people always are like, you look just like the guy from fill in the blank. And it, like here in Canada, for some reason, it's Good Girls all the time, which I love that show. Actually, I had so much fun on that show. But here it's like Good Girls all the time. And I'm like, wow, I'm not even like in all of it.
Now you're from Chicago, but you were in Austin while shooting Friday Night Lights. So what's the verdict? Whataburger? Yes or no?
I mean, at 2 a.m. when you're drunk, for sure.
You just offended a lot of people. No, that's great.
No, nothing. I only really eat fast food if I'm shouldn't be driving. No, Whataburger was great when I was there. I mean, I loved it. I just don't know if it actually is any good or if I was just drunk.
because of the circumstances. If you had $1 for every time someone said Matt Saracen or called you the wrong character from Friday Night Lights, how much money would you have?
A lot. A lot. Usually they never really call me the wrong character from it, but they'll say my name wrong. Like so often people will be like, Sorensen. It's my favorite show. And I'm like, how's it your favorite show if you don't even know my character's name?
And it's not like they introduce you once and then never touch on the last name for like the whole show. You're constantly called the last name Saracen. Like if you had to pick one superpower for yourself, what would it be?
Read minds. If I could read my wife's mind, I'd be the happiest man in the world. And she'd be the happiest woman in the world.
Who would have won in the state finals, in your opinion, if it was your team that won the state finals, the Dillon Panthers, in season 1, going against East Dillon that won in season 5?
Well, I didn't see season 5, so I don't know how good they were, but I know that we were more of a ragtag bunch.
Yeah.
Or I don't know that we were more of, I just know that was kind of our thing. So I don't know, but we had Smash. We would have won. Come on. They're the posers. We're the real Panthers.
We're the real ones. What's your biggest pet peeve?
I don't know. I feel like I used to. I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little more zen and accepting of people. Not everyone does things the way I do it. So, yeah, I don't really know off the top of my head. I think maybe when people don't give me the benefit of the doubt. What
is a job you would be terrible at?
Start the list. I play make-believe for a living. Anything that like has a lot of email involved, my inbox, I try so hard and it's just a mess.
In Midnight Mass, how many takes did it take to shoot some of the scenes where you guys had no cuts with lots of dialogue?
No, I think the scene on the beach with all the cats was like our longest oneer. And I think we did like 6 takes of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. You know, because you get one and you're like, cool, we got it. And then you do one for safety and you're like, oh, that one wasn't perfect. Let's just try one more. And at a certain point, you're like, well, we have it. Like,
describe yourself in 3 words.
Hardworking. I know that's 2, but can we count it as 1? Hardworking, stubborn, and loving.
If you could add one person, does not have to be a president, to Mount Rushmore, who would it be and why?
I mean, I'd probably put Obama on there just because my politics aside, I think, he was a groundbreaking president. And I think that's kind of the people who are up there are people who really pivoted politics in this country. And because it'd be weird to throw, Michael Jordan up there with a bunch of presidents.
I've had people say like DeBaby and stuff. So I've gotten serious answers like yours. And then I get like literally left field. I've had people say themselves like me. Why not?
Why not?
What is a piece of advice you wish you could have told yourself as a kid?
Stop lying. I mean, it's like, as a young person, I got into way more trouble than I needed to lying. It's like, what's the point?
What is one of your favorite memories?
I mean, it's cheesy, but I remember the moment I first saw my wife. I remember getting married to her, obviously. The moment my kids were born. They're just, as cliche as they are, they're such life-changing moments. It's kind of hard for them not to be your favorites, but not in those like sentimental ones. Like I got to sit courtside at a Bulls game, and I'm just like a huge sports fan. So that was amazing. I got to throw out the first pitch at a White Sox game. I spent 2 months backpacking in Alaska and climbing glaciers. And that's kind of, standing on top of a glacier and looking out at nothing but ice is a pretty amazing feeling.
What is your biggest goal in life?
My biggest goal in life is to be a good father and husband. But, I think that I hope that goes without saying for most people. Otherwise, I think it's just to be happy and not lose sight of what makes me happy. Which is another thing where it's like we were talking earlier about social media, and it's really easy to be like, oh my God, I just got like another 100 people followed me. It doesn't really mean anything. It gives you a shot of dopamine. And so, in a business that is so can be shallow. I think the people in it mostly are, but it's all about like celebrity and fame, not losing track of like, it's not about being famous. It's about doing good work and hopefully people like it.
I like that. That was my last question for you. I'll have everything for you linked down in the description. But what is next for you, Zach?
No, it's so funny you asked me on social media, and I see that you have your handle there, and I just put my name.
It's
follow me at. Oh, you know what I do have to say? There's a fake me on Instagram that everyone keeps like being like, "Wait, you're not on Instagram?" I'm like, "No, it's not me."
So, I thought it was you.
No, everyone did. I actually have someone I know, and publicity is trying to get him kicked off. But
so you don't have an Instagram at all?
I'm not on Instagram at all. Next, I did another series with Mike Flanagan. It's called The Midnight Club. We wrapped that a few weeks ago. I'm a much, much smaller part in it. I just desperately wanted to work with Mike again. He was kind enough to hire me. And then I think, nothing's official yet, but I think I'm supposed to do something with him in January as well.